Great Smoky Mountains National Park draws in over 11 million visitors each year for its picturesque views, peaceful forests, and diverse ecosystem. While many visitors enjoy these sites, if you head far enough into the parklands, you will see signs for Elkmont, a former logging camp and resort town that is in the process of being restored. First being settled in the 1840s by men panning for gold, the community of Little River formed shortly after. About 40 years later, loggers came to the area, and in 1901 the Little River Logging Company purchased almost 90,000 acres of land. A railroad system was set up to transport the timber out of the forest, with several stations throughout, one of those being Elkmont in 1908 that would serve as the base of operations in the Little River Valley. As the surrounding cities grew, the wealthy began eyeing the remote area as a place to vacation, and in 1910, 50 acres were sold to a group of Knoxville businessmen calling themselves the Appalachian Club. Beginning as just an area for the men to hunt and fish, when their families began to tag along, a clubhouse and cottages were built for them to stay in. More and more families began to build these cottages where they could come year-round for swimming, games, dances, and other activities. As logging began to cease operations in the 1920s, these families pushed for preservation of the land, and in 1927, the state of Tennessee began purchasing the land back to form the Great Smoky Mountains Park. They used eminent domain to displace almost 6,000 people who lived in the now parkland. But as is always the case, the rich found a loophole, and the around 100 people in the resort town of Elkmont were allowed to remain. But in the end, their money would be their downfall. When electricity was coming to the area, Elkmont residents wanted the power to be brought to them as well. Naturally, lines coming that far would be a great expense, with the TVA saying they needed a guaranteed 20-year lease to make it worth it for them. The citizens managed to work with the government guaranteeing their land lease a 20-year contract, but in that lease, a clause stated that it could not be renewed after those 20 years were up. But again, they managed to get it renewed for another 20 years, which pushed them out until the 1980s. When that time came, the residents attempted to gain a third renewal, stating they would make substantial donations to build a park visitor center. Environmental organizations and news outlets shared the story of the bribery, and the National Park Service denied Elkmont's offer. By 1992, all lease contracts had been finished, and the town was completely abandoned. Hey, this one's still got, it's not quite carpet, but... The park wanted to tear the town down, but could not, as 49 of the 74 buildings had been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. It is then that the town was left to decay, as NPS did not want to spend money on empty building upkeep. Throughout the 90s and early millennium, fires and decay saw many buildings come down on their own, until an agreement to preserve 19 of the cabins was made. Since then, the cabins have been undergoing renovations, and today most are open to the public. So, if you're in the Smoky Mountains and looking for a place to check out something different, head up to the ghost town of Elkmont and take a stroll through history.